afternoon, and welcome to our webinar, From Order Takers to Profit Makers, Scaling B2B E-Commerce on Dynamics GP. My name is Elizabeth Morse. I'm the event manager over here at Cavallo. I sit on our marketing team. I'm going to cover a few pieces of housekeeping before we jump into the presentation. You can expect about a 45-minute session, followed by plenty of time for Q&A. Feel free to ask those questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to get to those at the end of the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to share it with colleagues. You'll find it on our website as well as our YouTube channel. Fusionary will also be sharing the recording, so you'll be able to share it with colleagues or anyone who may have missed today's webinar. We are joined today by our partners at Fusionary, and we will cover how you can leverage your GP investment to deliver the Amazon-like experience that your B2B buyers are expecting and now demand. So here is our agenda for today. We're going to do some quick company introductions, help you get to know Cavallo and Fusionary if you're not super familiar. We're going to cover the current state of B2B e-commerce. We're going to have Fusionary cover what they do best, that front-end excellence. And then Cavallo is going to talk about the back-end efficiency with SalesPad, all when it comes to e-commerce. And then, like I said, there will be plenty of time for Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our presenters, my fabulous colleagues, as well as our awesome partners at Fusionary. And they're going to begin with introductions.
All right, nice to see everyone today. My name is Alyssa Strand, so I am our Senior Product Manager for the SalesPad suite of applications. So everything to do with the roadmap, all the great new features we're coming out with, that is all my area of expertise.
Yeah, thanks, Alyssa, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm James Williams, and I help lead the partner team here at Cavallo. And so in my role, I work with a variety of partners across the Microsoft ecosystem primarily, whether those are, reseller partners, independent consultants, other ISVs, or solution integrators like the folks over at Fusionary. So we're excited to partner with them. I've known Joe and John for over 10 years, which is why I'm excited to be able to partner with them and meet with them today.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Cavallo, for putting this on and bringing Joe and I on board to share. My name is John Tyner. I'm the VP of Strategy for Fusionary. I have 25 years of e-commerce experience in a couple of really large global publicly traded companies. And so I'm delighted to talk about B2B e-commerce with you guys today.
My name is Joe Alt, and I'm really excited today just because Cavallo has been a company that's been near and dear to my heart. Worked there for 13 years in a number of different roles, from development to sales to talking about consulting, and so excited for that. At Fusionary, I'm the VP of Business Development, so have a lot of great conversations about helping people build out their commerce platform, and specifically B2B work. So really excited with meeting everyone here today and ready to dive in.
All right, so let me tell the folks a little bit about Cavallo, a little bit about our history and what makes us a little bit different than some of the other software companies out there. And one of those key things is the fact that we were actually founded by a distributor. He was successful running a successful business, running GP, Dynamics Great Plains, as his ERP, and was really just frustrated with the lack of visibility and controls and the amount of just manual effort and process that really went into managing orders at scale for his business. And so over time, he helped build SalesPad, and just kind of incrementally adding all of these features that everybody loves. today, focused on solving some real challenges, including order visibility, the ability to know where every order is at, all of that transactional level information, having that at his fingertips, right? Full order visibility in terms of where the inventory is at any given time and what's available to actually commit, which is a typical challenge you see with a lot of ERPs natively. They're just not designed for that level of visibility and accuracy. And what that ultimately led him to over time, was kind of landing at this vision of, can I 10x my profits while working half the time, right? And he was ultimately able to arrive at that vision with SalesPad, and that's the tool that he credits his business's success for over the course of the 25 years. So jumping over to what we've accomplished in those 25 years. So started in 2003, over 1,000 distribution customers served, over $100 million of value created for those customers of ours. Over that period of time, we've managed to have a 92% retention rate with our customer base, which is extremely high compared to most benchmarks. Same with a score of 95, which again is far exceeds most peer benchmarks. And then ultimately over 20,000 users of SalesPad. And, we're grateful for the success that they've provided for us. And so when we get to, what, what we've achieved in those 25 years and sort of the why that we arrived at is, at the end of the day, we help make our customers' businesses immensely more profitable, competitive, and valuable. We've heard that feedback from our customers time after time, and that's something that we're pleased to be able to help them deliver. So I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thanks, James. So overall, Fusionary is working with a number of different partners on the e-commerce side. And so this is this suite of partners that we work with primarily when we start new projects. We also do maintenance for existing projects on more partners than we show here. But right now, we do a lot of work with BigCommerce, Shopify, Dynamic Web, Zenote, and Vendor. And when you think about those organizations, some of them are B2B, some of them are B2C, and some of them also have some open source flavors. But overall, when you put it all together, we have 10 different active Microsoft website projects going on right now. And it's a mix between GP, F&O, and Business Central. But primarily, most of what we're doing is in that GP space. And many of them have Cavallo ties to that we're working with. So if I continue on a slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about why do you need somebody like Fusionary and what do we do? And so first and foremost, we do help out people that have existing maintenance needs on their website, regardless of what platform they're on. But if you're starting out and thinking about a new project, we work in these three functions primarily. So digital strategy. What is the best e-commerce platform for you? We don't sell any software, we just sell the services. So we're really well positioned to say, hey, this is the pros and cons for why you should choose one platform over another. Should you be using their B2B version or their B2C version or a hybrid? A little hint, there's more and more hybrid every day, and there's more and more B2B every day than in the past. And then within that, the strategy kind of continues through as we build a project for you. And at the end of that, we're going to think about, what do your analytics look like and help and make sure that you're increasing and improving your revenue overall. The next part of that we do is we're doing the full implementation. And that really starts with building out a beautiful design for you that's tailored for customers to be able to find your product. But we'll do either a B2B, B2C implementation. Sometimes we also layer in product information management. And we'll do some custom code if that's required. A key part for us is everything we do, a customer owns. So you own all of the code that we create for you. And the next part, and what we're talking about today is we'll help work through that integration. We'll set up that integration using great tools like Cavallo's connectors and API. And because of the fact that we don't sell anything, there's no vendor lock-in from us. So we can do a project as our engagement. We can do a project and maintain it afterwards. Obviously, that's more of our preference. If I continue on, one of the other parts that we think is super helpful, and this can be a bit much for people to take in when you first start, but it's super helpful to understand how do all of these pieces connect together. And so I just put out two different examples, and I'll focus on just this more simple one on the Shopify side. And what you'll see here is we're going to show you how we're going to connect to Google Analytics, how we connect to your CRM system, how we use Cavallo's connector or API to connect to Cavallo and the ERP system. And these diagrams are unique and different for every individual, but give you a really good understanding of all the technology pieces that we would recommend to you as we start a particular project. And I'll hand it back over to the next person.
Hey, everybody. So let's talk about the current state of B2B e-commerce. And what I'd like to do is I'm just going to jump into very specifically some use cases. So we'll just get right into some of the nitty gritty, and then we'll talk about the buying behavior around that. And then we'll pull back a little bit and talk about just buyer preferences and sort of just what's going on generally, excuse me, with B2B. So jumping in and looking at some use cases. Very common for us when we're having conversations with opportunities and moving into and through projects, there's a list of things that these folks are trying to get done. And if you look at these things, there's probably nothing on here that would be particularly surprising. So why do you choose B2B? These are the typical sorts of things that folks are trying to get to. And you could say, well, we actually provide some of this stuff already. That's true. Account-based pricing and assortments, certainly. And, we get very specific with our customers. They have certain catalogs, certain pricing that they need to see. And when they call on the phone, they expect to be known and understood and get to these things. They also expect, to be able to make their payments. They want to be able to let the right people in to get to these systems and do the things that they need to do. And then we get to some much more sophisticated things. So RFQs, or request for quoting, or CPQs, configure price quote. These are really interesting moments because, again, this work may be going on today, but it tends to be fairly manual. It tends to be quite laborious over the phone. It takes time to configure and quote something. And then just a simplified process of ordering, reordering, and or very basic things like product learning. All of these things are probably work that's going on today, but we want to talk about what does it mean to actually shift that over into a B2B experience. And first and foremost in this, it gets to self-service. And we're going to talk about this specifically in a moment, but everybody today thinks that they probably should be able to get everything that they want just by picking up their phone. And we really feel that on the business to consumer side of things. We just genuinely expect we can just pull out our phone and kind of get something done quickly and move on, whatever that may be. But we typically want to call out the difference between that business to consumer experience, or the experience we all have as consumers, with the context of this conversation, which is B2B. In the B2C scenario, she may have 4 sweaters and she'd like to buy a 5th sweater. And this whole exercise of, pulling out her phone and going to some places and sort of looking at some things, we describe that behavior as shopping. It's a pleasant experience, it's entertainment, etc. That really is in contrast to what we're talking about here on the B2B side. Here, we typically find we have business critical things that are needed. I have a bunch of equipment. I need to do preventive maintenance on it. I need the right filters at the right time. I need a particular part or component, whatever the case may be, and I need it right away. I have a million things to do today. I've got to get this done. That is not shopping behavior. That's buying. The level of intentionality associated with the purchase behavior is extremely high. And as a result, their expectations are very high. And this is one of the principal reasons we see manufacturers and distributors adopting B2B solutions, because that person who is so time constrained and under a real deadline to get the correct part the first time wants a self-service experience. So they prefer, by like 7 to 1, a digital interaction. They can pull out their phone just like they do in their personal lives and find exactly what they're looking for. And sometimes it's not just as simple as getting some parts or whatever, but actually triggering and initializing requests for quotes. Those are really standard kinds of behaviors that people expect to have today, and they want to do it on their time frame, 24/7, not when customer service may be in the building or when somebody can receive an email and reply to them. That's a primary driver for us. They also expect this to be tailored to them. They want to log into their own account, see their own catalogs, perhaps see what they've purchased previously so they can simply reorder, get to their account and make payments on them quickly if that's something that they need to do. Their products, their pricing, their catalogs. And they want then that experience where they're buying to be as simplified as possible. Help me get to the right stuff as quickly as I can. If we're reordering products or things we've had before, that's much simpler. But we're in there in the discovery mode because of their time constraints. The level of anxiety associated with that behavior is very high. They get frustrated very quickly. It's essential that we build an experience for them that meets their expectations. And this has to happen on the phone. And of course, we know that AI is coming into these conversations more and more. We're seeing them very early on at the search level, where we want to make sure that when they get to their account and they're looking for something in particular, we have a very sophisticated search solution that allows them, in much faster than they would otherwise, get to what they're looking for. These are the buying behaviors that we're seeing. And the experience that they're looking for is what we discussed. So here's some data. B2B commerce sales are projected to pass 3 trillion in 2027. That's an enormous amount of growth in B2B. We watched everything grow on the B2C side. B2B has been much, much slower to adopt this. That's changed. The wave is coming. So we just talked about before that, at least 7 to 1, buyers are saying, look, I'd really want to go and make my purchases online if I possibly can, and even pay for them that way. The data are showing us that this is what's happening. So if you're a manufacturer, you're a distributor, it's really necessary to take the step to make these kinds of investments today. Why? Why? Well, we see businesses today as a benchmark targeting roughly 30% of their revenue coming through their B2B portal, coming through their commerce solution, as opposed to through customer service, inside sales, et cetera. 30% is the benchmark. And we see often that they can get as high as 70%, depending on the type of business that they are. So does that mean that you'll add 30% to your business if you move online? No, it simply means that the buyers are already expecting it and they will quickly migrate to that solution. And this is the imperative. This is the driver. This initial investment in B2B commerce is actually a defensive move more than it is an offensive move. It's defensive because we need to do this as manufacturers and distributors, or our customers are going to find places where others have, because they simply are so time constrained. They need the solution. They're looking for it, and they're going to find it if we don't provide it for them. So last slide for me, what are we trying to solve for? Well, we're trying to solve for the best experience we can. What are the challenges that are there? Well, often we find complex pricing structures, and you live this every day. It's amazing how complex the pricing structures can be inside businesses. If you can model this effectively, with an amazing company like Cavallo and SalesPad, we can replicate and pull those data into a commerce solution and provide a great experience for them. It can be done. Fragmented systems. Every time we have a solution that we're trying to solve for, we really call into question how well are the fundamental infrastructure of the technology linked to themselves in order to create a seamless buying process for customers on the front end. The work that we're doing when we implement a B2B e-commerce solution really exposes weaknesses in this area. And so we're often doing basic integration work to help facilitate these. So again, these guys get the kind of experience they need to. And finally, we're battling against scalability. When we provide a self-service solution, when we give buyers the opportunity to buy on their own and when they're ready, that creates the opportunity for scale that we simply cannot do otherwise. So these things together are issues that we're facing all the time and reasons to move forward. So I'm happy to pass it on to, I think, Alyssa. Oh, it's Joe. Sorry.
Yep, it's me. So for the next 3 slides, I wanted to just touch on 3 projects that we've done that are Cavallo customers and go through a little bit of what we're seeing with them. And so the first customer is Blueprint. And so, Blueprint's an interesting case in the sense that they have a bit of a hybrid. They want to serve B2B customers, but they want many of the B2C functionality that's out there. And so they have this unique experience where a customer is going to be able to filter. And whenever we think about filtering for car parts, many times we're thinking about like make, model, year. That's very traditional for us to go out and find something like that. They're a little different. They're thinking about their stuff as far as compatibility, platform, and displacement. And so the point just simply is that how you do your filtering or your faceted search, which is a fancy way to say filtering, is really important on helping customers discover those correct products. And we consider that to be every industry has a few different filters that they're going to take and use to be able to find their particular products. The other part of this is just a full integration, integrating with Avalara, integrating with PayFabric, integrating with Cavallo. Those are many of the same tools that individuals on this call have. And so an order is going to start off out in the e-commerce platform and it's going to end up into Cavallo, have some interactions that occur there. And then you're going to push that order back out to your e-commerce platform so that you can have shipping notifications sent out to your customer. So beyond that, one of the things that was interesting with this individual is that they've got this B2B and this B2C side to them, and they have many of the same components. And so you can build out a really structured platform that has reusable blocks that are used between those 2 instances, but yet at the same time are stick on brand, on theme all the way through. So as far as the next individual, I think this one's one of the most interesting. And there's a number of companies out there that sell similar materials or that I think can relate to this particular customer. And so they are primarily selling to gyms, universities to do replacement pads. So you have a piece of gym equipment, you have to be able to find that particular product. And so one of their biggest pains was the fact that somebody would search their website and they would eventually find what they thought was the correct pad, but they'd have the wrong fit. Since all of these pads are custom made, custom built, if you get it wrong, they couldn't really do a return process with the customer. And that was very problematic for maintaining customers because how do you handle that? They ordered the wrong thing, but you can't accept it back. So did a lot of things around making sure that they had the fitment right on that, making sure that they are using the right brand, using the right series, and then being able to double check that. And one of the great things with this was that we did this dynamic product image generation. So you have 20 different pads for a particular piece of equipment. You have 30 different vinyls that could go on that particular pad. And you want to be able to show and generate all of those different options. Well, if you multiply that out, you get into the hundreds of thousands of permutations that could be out there. So you can't take images for all of this. So you have to be able to generate those images on the fly. And within that, you want to be able to have it be easy when you add a new vinyl here or there. And so literally for them, you have a base product that is able to be rendered on the fly. And if they add two new vinyls, they're adding it in one place and it spans all of their particular products that they would like the vinyl to apply to. And so many other applications for individuals in wood products and fabrics, laminates, etc., to be able to do that. One of the other things, which is kind of like a future consideration for them that we see, and we have particular products that we naturally gravitate towards, is they want to potentially do some personalization where you have some embroidery or some logos, and you want to be able to have that view be rendered for a customer to see what it looked like. And all of those things are able to happen dynamically for an individual. So I think the third piece that was really interesting for this individual is since they served gym equipment, they had a configurator. So they had a configurator for any time they had to replace a cable on a weight machine. And so the configurator has a end for each side, which is configurable, and a overall wire length. And we find in the past, B2C was the only place where configurators was truly happening. But now it's more and more prevalent that, I have a B2B configurator, and there's so many applications for those. You can have like decking calculators, square footage calculators. You can have wire calculators, or even, if you're more in the manufacturing side, you might want to have something around run rate or machine uptime, factoring in some other variables. So calculators are a part of your product pages more and more frequently. And then for us, the last one I wanted to talk about was just this really unique checkout experience. And so when you do B2C, it's a very simple, I go through some clicks, I look at my shipping, make my taxes, my payment, and I check out. B2B is different. There's two real scenarios that start to happen for here. And the first is really just an RFQ process where somebody may push in an order and they, the team goes out and estimates it, pushes it back, and the customer may approve it. That's a very common one in the B2B space. But I thought this one was really unique. And so how Root and Riddle does it is they have a veterinarian go out there and they say for a particular animal, they're going to put in medication. And normally they'll do it for 10 or so animals. And so what you would see is people like James may go out there and he would then complete that process for his dog, and John would complete the process for his cat, or et cetera. And so you have this two-step process. The vet sets up all the orders, and then the customer completes it and makes the actual payment. So kind of a unique checkout for that. And then because you're dealing with medications, there's a bunch of different rules by state, by municipality of how you handle what can and cannot be sold and what kind of paperwork you have to do there. So just a lot of complexity on the B2B side that we were able to take and accomplish here for this customer. So I'll hand it back over to Alyssa and James.
Beautiful. Thank you, Joe. So how does SalesPad come into play with all of this? Because SalesPad itself is not an e-commerce platform, right? It's effectively your ERP. I mean, it sits on top of GP, so you have a smoother experience, better data visibility, and more control over your business. But one of SalesPad's strengths is its ability to connect to other systems. It can automate these data flows, which saves you time because then people don't need to manually update information in multiple places. It saves you errors because it eliminates the risk of typos and missing order details that you need. And it saves you headaches because it keeps both systems up to date automatically. SalesPad has connectors for Shopify, WooCommerce, and Adobe Commerce / Magento, and all three of these support similar flows. So your product list and available inventory and SalesPad sync out to the website so your customers know which items they can order, and they can see the latest and greatest product details and images without you needing to maintain all of that on the website as well. When your customers place orders on the website, those orders sync into SalesPad. They follow your workflow to be picked, packed, and shipped, and they automatically send fulfillment updates back out to the website. So you don't need to manually email every single order confirmation and shipping notification. Today's businesses operate on a full-on ecosystem of technology, and if you create connections that tie these moving pieces together, it keeps everything moving in lockstep with each other. This lets you leverage all the benefits of a modern sales portal for your customers without needing to take on a ton of extra management work and duplicate data entry. SalesPad's e-commerce connectors are a great solution for many people, but they do focus on broad sync options that apply to most people, and they really hone in on B2C focused capabilities. There are options for mapping which fields go where and extending functionality with scripts. So there's a ton of built-in configuration that lets you align the sync processing with your business requirements. But what if you want more complex pricing to sync to the website? Or what if you need to use those B2B features like RFQs, catalogs, or contracts? This is where SalesPad's extensibility comes into play. Our ecom connectors give you a core platform for all the basic syncing that you need, and then you can build extra functionality on top of that with the SalesPad Web API. So this application programming interface lets you pull information out of SalesPad and push updates back into SalesPad. You just need a developer to create the logic for what happens when. And this is where Fusionary comes in. Fusionary has developers who understand e-commerce so they can build those flows to handle the extra data points that you need. And even better, they understand SalesPad. They've worked with us on other projects, they're familiar with our API, and with SalesPad concepts like workflows and the GP data structures. They can integrate SalesPad more tightly with your website, incorporating those rules for made-to-order items so your customers can explore the possibilities and submit their own item configurations, syncing your group pricing or customer special pricing from SalesPad so your customers are seeing their accurate pricing on the website, and adding other types of data flows to support whatever else you want to sync automatically. So in this way, you can start with an out-of-the-box e-commerce connector and leverage that as much as possible, and only customize the extra bits of information that you really need. But what about all the other e-commerce options out there? SalesPad supports Shopify, WooCommerce, and Adobe Commerce, but what if you're considering something else like BigCommerce, Znode, or Dynamic Web? Many e-com sites are designed specifically for B2C or B2B, and they support different features and have different levels of configurability. So you need to explore a bit to find something that'll work well for your business. And what if the best option for you isn't something that SalesPad already supports? Again, this is where the API and Fusionary can come in. So the REST API supports a wide variety of data types, so you can sync customers and contacts, quotes and orders, payments and fulfillment updates. You can make sure that your product lists and inventory availability are staying up to date on the website, and you can level up the experience for your customers while driving more sales. So Fusionary can create the data flows that need to happen to support your online sales channels, giving your customers a smooth, streamlined process for updating their account and entering their orders, and saving time and effort for your customer support and sales teams. Because ultimately, all of this is about making it as easy as possible for your customers to place their next order, while also reducing the effort for your internal teams. So you're getting more sales that cost you less money, and you're maximizing your overall profitability. And I'll pass it back to James to wrap us up.
Yeah, thanks, Alyssa. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Before we jump into Q&A, just wanted to touch base on a couple of things and why Cavallo and Fusionary. Ultimately, we help make the system work for you. So instead of you working for your system, design the system to work for you. We're also proud of the fact that we're two local West Michigan based companies. So that means that all of our services, support, et cetera, all based here domestically. Like Alyssa had touched on previously, deep industry expertise, and just the team understanding the software that you folks use on an everyday basis, Dynamics GP, SalesPad, and your various e-commerce platforms. So we do understand that technology deeply and try to design the solutions accordingly. With that, I'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So now we have plenty of time to answer all of your questions. We have a few right off the bat. Alyssa, I'm going to direct this one straight to you. So would Cavallo ever consider connecting to BigCommerce?
Potentially. So, I mean, that one has come up as a request, and I know
Mhm.
that we have at least a couple customers who've created their own integrations between BigCommerce and SalesPad using our REST API. So for us, like in terms of big roadmap decisions like that, it's really about how much value we can bring to as broad a set of our customer base as possible. So it's always a possibility, and the more people we hear asking for that, the more likely we are to do it. But if it's something that you're looking at on a particular time frame, that's where probably getting with someone like Fusionary would be your best bet.
Awesome. So if you have further questions on that answer, just let us know. We'll give you you've got some follow-up contact information right here on the slide. So, Alyssa, can you kind of give us a little bit of insight in how often you and your team update our e-commerce integrations?
Yeah, so that is it's fairly regular. I mean, we work with Shopify, Woo, and Adobe Commerce whenever they're updating things, and we need to do updates on our side to make sure that we're keeping the communication up to date with the website, then we work on that. So, or sometimes we'll come out with big new features. Like I know last year we invested some time in e-commerce specifically, adding some more syncing options and just fleshing out some functionality that we hadn't put the time into before. So it's as we have time for the big things and
Mhm.
definitely for those required updates, like any API updates that the ecom providers are doing, we're staying up to date with all of that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. This one I think is specific to probably John and Joe. So this business been this business has been operating for many years. They haven't really taken the next step into e-commerce. They have GP and SalesPad, it seems like. Um, they don't really know where to begin. So like would Fusionary help build that case for them to take next steps? I don't know if John or Joe who wants to take that one.
Yeah, we certainly would. It's a common question that we get, and it is a big step. There's a lot of considerations, but if we, take a distributor as an example, maybe they're doing some work in the marketplaces today, but they've decided that it's important for them to step out on their own. The first thing we're going to look at is the product data. It's a great start knowing that they're, working with Cavallo and GP, because that gives us a good understanding of kind of what the basis of the infrastructure will be. So we'll do an analysis of the overall size of the business, the number of SKUs, get to the complexity, look at the account structures and pricing and try to understand, again, levels of complexity there. And we'll roll that together. We're kind of looking at product quality, the quality of the product data. And then we can very quickly come back and present two or three different commerce platform solutions and kind of discuss the scalability, applicability of those, the various costs, et cetera, so that they can select the one that they think works best for them. Again, we don't sell any software. We're just there to help them pick sort of the best thing that is suited to them. And once we go through that process, then we begin the project itself. Projects, can be done as quickly as 3 months. Often for distributors of size, it takes longer than that. But in short order, we can get to a place where they are selling directly online.
Awesome. And would it be safe to assume that either Joe or John or maybe both of you would be part of those initial conversations with a business who was looking to go down that road?
Yeah, we certainly would,
Awesome.
and others as well.
Sure.
We have our head of engineering who has many years of experience doing exactly the same thing. So we'll work at a strategy level to understand the market and what's happening there. We'll come in from an engineering perspective and see what's happening with the infrastructure, so that we produce a solution that isn't just technically viable, but also puts them in a position to begin to compete immediately and drive sales.
If
Sounds
I
good.
answer just a little bit differently too, I think there's a lot of big factors that go into what customers should decide, and we kind of have a roster of platforms that we think do a really good job of that. And so, are you B2B? Are you B2C? Are you selling hybrid? Are you multi-store? Are you selling international? Um, there's a lot, what kind of variants do you have out there for yourself? And, do you have custom code? You start to layer all of these decisions plus many others together. And then we kind of think about that and give you guys a suggestion or two. And so we always, if it's really clear cut, we'd say, hey, this is what we think is the best platform for you. If there's a couple of varying pieces to you as to whether you're looking for, lower upfront cost or better scalability down the road, we might give you two options. And that's kind of our overall approach to thinking about people's selection as they're building something new.
Makes good sense, Joe. Thank you. We have another question. This person sounds like they've have many years of sales history in SalesPad and on Dynamics GP with tens of thousands of SKUs. So long legacy of varying internal practices means they have constant struggle with inconsistent data. We hear that a lot. And that inconsistent data will tie them up before they can even begin thinking about specific e-commerce solutions. It's clear they know they need to do something. Combining SKUs, fixing non-standard SKUs, etc. Is Cavallo working on any features on the e-commerce side to support all of this?
Not directly that I know of or can think of at the moment. Some of our general product searchability and visibility in SalesPad could be helpful with that. But I would say that typically those kinds of big data cleanup activities usually go hand in hand with a GP partner. Because, I mean, of course, SalesPad sits on top of GP. We leverage a lot of the same data structures and bring that into SalesPad. But there can be other ramifications of that kind of cleanup and how does it affect your order history as well. So making sure that all of those little things that are connected are properly handled, usually a GP partner comes into play with that. But you could also connect with us. I know our consultants can also help with that kind of cleanup, especially if you have a ton of item user defined fields that you're also looking to consolidate in some way. Those kinds of SalesPad specific concepts are where our team would be able to help you.
And I would just add on to what Alyssa just shared and say that, when we've had conversations with customers, with these types of challenges, whether that data resides solely inside GP, whether that data, exists inside, user-defined fields within SalesPad, the challenge in sort of creating a standard feature or functionality is the logic is so business by business, company by company specific. And I think that's been one of the challenges. So, it's something that we can help tackle on a case by case basis, but it's been difficult to, standardize a product feature to handle that. But would love to hear what Joe and John might have to say about that as well. And I'll add on to that question and maybe ask the Fusionary folks, when you're creating some of these integrations and this sync compatibility between platforms and GP and SalesPad, what kind of challenges do you run into? Things similar to what was raised here.
Yeah. I'd like to touch on this first part and then kind of get to your question a little bit there. One of the other things that we've seen with people that have a large number of items with attributes and they want to push out to the e-commerce side is that we'll see people implement a PIM, a product information management system, and that allows them to structure their data a little bit differently than how the ERP has, allows them to potentially add additional attributes that they need for the website or when they're syndicating out to other marketplaces. So for example, if you're going to push data to Amazon, Walmart, etc., you might have 3 different ways that the description needs to be situated. You might not want that inside of your ERP. You might want to only push out so many of the different products. And so depending on the complexity of the organization, that can be a situation where we start to introduce a PIM, or we have a couple of different e-commerce platforms that have built-in PIMs that we love to also use. The great thing about SalesPad Cavallo is it has this unlimited number of user-defined fields. So it serves a bit as a quasi PIM, but if you need something more complex, this is where we would start to reach for a PIM. But then to answer your second question, what kind of integration problems do we start to see with people? I think, James is kind of hitting on it here from Charter that, how do you handle all of your data that may not be fully mature or that you might not want out there? And so the biggest problem is really deciding what data you want out there and if it's shaped the same as you have it inside of your ERP. So GP has a number of different item classes, but is that going to match up to the navigation that you want to have on your e-commerce side? It probably is not. So you have to shape that data a little bit differently. And, inside of GP, you have certain amounts of things that you may need to be able to sell, but do you need to accurately track your height, length, width, all these extra descriptions, extra attributes to be able to filter and search on stuff? You may not. And so there is some amount of reshaping that data for the e-commerce side. And I would say that's probably one of the bigger pieces to work with a company if they don't have somebody that really understands their products well and can start to make those decisions. That's where we sometimes see the delays. I don't know if, John, you have anything else to add there?
Well, I think you covered it really well. We think of the systems of record and the systems of engagement. And the system of record in this case, of course, is GP with SalesPad Cavallo. And that's really, really different from a data perspective fundamentally than what's happening on the system of engagement, which are the commerce solutions. Again, what that customer expects to see when they get there, the data layers, as what Joe is talking about, really can be fundamentally different than what's inside your ERP. Really, really different. Experiences are different. And as a result, we wind up often having to have data stores that have essentially the same information, but the engagement may be sort of a fuller, richer, we call it more hydrated data set. And what's in the ERP may actually be a subset of that. And that's just something that is a common result of kind of doing these projects.
Thank you, guys. It looks like one last question. So our manufacturing business has complicated pricing structure that's constantly fluctuating with market conditions. Can you guys, I think this is a Fusionary one. Can you guys help us understand how to leverage our SalesPad and GP solution with e-commerce to deliver real-time pricing to our customers so they can maintain their margins and compete effectively? So.
Sure. I mean, there's definitely opportunities to be able to pull in your pricing straight from SalesPad using the API, using the connectors, or more accurately, the API. If you're talking about the fact that you have maybe a commodity-based pricing, we've gone out and connected to some of the commodity exchanges to factor out some adjustments to the materials if you need to do something of that nature. I don't know, John, what else would you add on that?
Yeah, we're talking about like what's the level of connectivity and how close are we to the market? And so, the commerce solutions that we have today can get very close to real time. So we'll push the ERP solution, to its limit, and we'll see refresh times as short as 5 minutes if that's what's necessary. We often find that that's more than enough. because of course we're talking about manufacturers and distributors, that the pricing doesn't vary that quickly. So if we can keep it into a 5-minute range, we're close enough to the market that we don't get ourselves upside down. And that can be on pricing, that can be on inventory, it can be on whatever the critical factors are in this particular case.
Um, can everyone hear me okay?
We
Yes.
can.
Okay, awesome. I sensed a little bit of connectivity there. Awesome. So that's going to conclude our webinar today. I want to thank all of our presenters, our partners from Fusionary, and most importantly, all of you for joining us today. We hope to see you all at future webinars. I definitely encourage you to visit our event page at cavallo.com/events-schedule. You'll be able to view all of our upcoming webinars and events, as well as our past webinars with all of the recordings like this one. So you'll be able to access this recording as early as tomorrow morning. If you would like to explore your organization's specific needs or want to continue talking about what we discussed today, contact your account manager or feel free to reach out to James, Joe here. We are ready to help. Lastly, there's going to be a short survey at the end of today's webinar. We greatly appreciate your feedback. And once again, thank you for joining us, and we hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.